taking human jobs. So we have our guest speaker today, Mr. Zainul Abdin Khan, who's country manager India for Lutech Resources, which is part of McDermott Group International. Uh, so now I'll just some logistics statements. So you can keep on putting your questions as they come to your mind. Uh, but unless it is slide specific, we will try to answer all of them towards the end of the webinar in interest of time and content we have. Uh, so look forward to have your good participation. And since AI and automation is all about data, we will be releasing some polls in between. So I encourage you to participate in it so we know what kind of audience we have, what's their thought process and things like that. So over to you, Zainul.
Hi, everyone. People who are from India and the Indian Standard Time, a very good evening, and people from all across the world, whatever appropriate greetings. Uh, so today's topic is how real is the threat of artificial intelligence taking over? Uh, how real is the threat of artificial intelligence taking human jobs? Just give me a moment, please. Here. Okay, so this is something which is now being discussed across various platforms specific to human resources, people worried about their jobs, technological advances which are now taking over and changing the way we live and we work. Uh, some of the basic points that come to our mind are um, as a summary, I've taken that up. Is the threat of automation is as old as humankind. I mean, whenever there is a technological disruptive and kind of a change which comes to play in terms of the way we do things, uh, it's always been a threat to the existing system. Uh, Paradoxically, it's for the improvement of that system, or basically to take that system to another level. However, it's always be perceived as a threat, and this is no different. So inventions, scientific developments, and discoveries have always disrupted the way we live, and that's how we have reached here. Now, with a lot of science fiction dose and a lot of futuristic thinking, we start assuming that basically something created by human beings will take over human beings, which is a little far-fetched from what exactly will happen, though it's debatable, and a lot of people who have read those interesting novels and watched those movies will disagree, but we are far from where those fictional ideas will take us. So artificial intelligence is just a logical step forward in the evolution of technology and advancement of civilization. And so this is something which is inevitable. It's a regular process, is a logical outcome of whatever else we have been doing ever since human beings started applying their mind to uh, development and innovation and discoveries and inventions. So this is just another stepping up in technology. Some of the disruptive changes that human evolution has ever seen, you can start comparing these with some of these I've listed down. Uh, the wheel, of course, internal combustion engine, the conventional means of travel were changed. The harnessing of animals for chariots and also steam engine, uh, those things changed. Spinning jenny, uh, that put a lot of weavers out of job, and they were freed to do something else. Telephone, telegraph added to uh, the letters and post and partially also replaced these. Motion picture, audio and video recording and replication of these and television finally disruptive inventions, a new medium, it wasn't there before. Then comes the computer, and the computer changed the way we actually calculated things. I'll give you one small example. Um, in the engineering, in an engineering college, 25 years ago, the main skill civil engineers would learn was to make a correct estimate of a particular load on a building. That would require a humongous amount of calculations that will finally pile up into a result, which would be taken as a go ahead for the building to be actually constructed in that particular way. Now, 10 years or 15 years ago, that changed. That mindless calculation, or I wouldn't say mindless, it was like very mundane kind of calculations were kind of uh, it was it gave way to these engineers actually now focusing on other aspects, and basically the form of civil engineering that we see today is an improvement, big improvement over that. And these people are freed from doing those calculations which they were simple mathematics and nothing else. Then came the internet, communication, banking, information, business, whatnot. Everything today we are completely dependent on the internet. Now, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, there was no smartphones. Anybody who has a computer will have internet, and that to limited access to things. In fact, you wouldn't have probably seen, most of you wouldn't have seen, initial internet was not only very slow but also very sparse in terms of information. There used to be a Yahoo search engine, and most of the terms that you put in to search for yielded no results. And now that the data has reached a level which we is unfathomable, we really can't measure or count the amount of data that is there on the internet available to so many people. Smartphone once again has already replaced cameras, conventional phones, computers, all those. So these are some of the stepping ups in the technology which has already happened. And so there is an opposition, and this fear comes from that inherent opposition of automation or artificial intelligence. When we perceive this as a threat, we are basically playing on to an inherent opposition to our present state of things. So any disruptive technology change will get some opposition, and these are the reasons. They change business models. For example, the way banking was done uh, 2 decades back, it has completely changed because of this technological advancement. They force people to change their way of working. There are a lot of new jobs which have come up because of this, but there's a lot of jobs that have consolidated into less engaging jobs because of this automation. They change process and introduce new ones. There are new additional processes, and probably some of the processes have been eliminated, some of the steps have been eliminated. There's a lot of automation, which also leads to a lot of transparency and quicker turnaround on processing of information and processing of even finances, all this. And so the conventional ways, people who with conventional ways would see this as a threat, that whatever we are doing now, as of now, the way we do it now will change. So it will actually mean demolition of this present model. Yes, true, but then it's basically an upgradation. We are demolishing the current setup to give way to uh, a better system, a much advanced system, and probably a stepping stone for something better to come after that. This is not the end. We are not talking of artificial intelligence as the end of everything. This is one step further, and this will keep on improving itself, evolving, and we also evolve along with it. They also push humans to adopt more complex ways, requiring learning and enhancing their skill sets. Now, one small example is I remember when we were in school, We were taught computer language, which was basic and was very complex. It was much difficult than the conventional languages that we was at the time learning. And even to get a small printout of one page saying writing your name would require at least 5 or 6 command lines in a DOS-like mode. And then in engineering, we learned about COBOL and Pascal and others. But when we hold a smartphone today, which does a lot of things, it doesn't let you worry about what language is, what technology is going behind it. And Visual Basic came first, and then it sorted out things for us. And then there have been so many technological advances that we hold a smartphone. We don't actually worry about what's happening in the background, and we do what we need. We browse, we do banking, we call, we download data, we get informed, so many things. So we are now required to learn the smartphone. There are people who found it challenging, especially people who were a little against, changing their ways of, and they kept complaining about it, that they cannot operate, it's too complex enough. But basically, it's an upgradation of uh, their understanding of technology and how you apply to it. For instance, an a retired person who has to go to a bank and be in the queue to get his to find out how much money is left in his account uh, is opposing a smartphone where he could download the bank's app and get this information without going anywhere. Now, this is a paradox where you are opposing something which is actually facilitating things for you. So, moving on, well, what are the clear answers to? You would have guessed it by now, but I would still say, what are the answers to these questions? Will AI take away jobs? And what happens to people who were in those jobs prior to the advent of AI?
Zainul,
Yeah.
Zainul, I would like to release the poll now. It is very relevant slide.
Okay.
So, audience, I would request you to please respond to this poll that I am just releasing. We would like to know your thoughts on this same. Please respond. Great. So we have 40% yes, 40% no, and 20% maybe. Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. So we are still into minds about the first question: will AI take away jobs? That was your question, right?
Right.
Okay. So let's move on. I'll explain how this. There is no yes or no to this answer, but I'll try to explain as to how this will happen as per the existing information and the past patterns. So jobs will change. Jobs will change. They will change into different types of jobs, and they will not have. Uh, um, I mean, we cannot e- we cannot equate these jobs to the present jobs because they would be newer forms of those jobs. Um, some of the processes and business activities and change will be taken up by artificial intelligence will take. People currently doing these activities have to adopt newer skill sets and upgrade themselves. Now, I'll take an example of somebody working in a uh, bank, and half of the work that person had to do was to attend to customers who would walk in, find out how much balance their account has. Now, this is already going away, and they probably have to change their activities. This banking person will now be doing something on his computer screen which will aggregate these queries and see whether these have been answered, and maybe can take up more complex work within the banking process and be freed from this particular responsibility. Um, the newer jobs may not be equivalents of the lost jobs. Yes, jobs will be lost. Yes, definitely. Lost as in to be changed by something different. Newer kind of jobs will evolve out of these developments. We cannot perceive these completely at present. I'll give an example. In one of the, I'm sorry, in one of the articles in Forbes magazine, it was mentioned that one of the researchers had quoted that before the commercial aviation started, before we had these airlines and all, could you and an aeroplane wasn't invented? Could you think of a job called flight attendant? You couldn't, because there were no airlines, and you couldn't perceive the fact that uh, there would be people flying and they would need somebody to attend to them on flight. I mean, this is a little too futuristic, talking of the beginning of 1900s. Similarly, we may not completely perceive as to what kind. Of course, we can have some logical deductions, but we really can't completely perceive as to what uh, these jobs would be like, what they will cater to, what gap they will be filling, and how rewarding these would be for the people who would have taken up these jobs. Sometimes people have one of these perceptions is that, will I be as valuable as I am now? And this perception comes from one very very old, rather recurring theme in leadership or team management, which is delegation. Sometimes we hold things very close to ourselves and start identifying ourselves with those things because we feel that we are part of that, and we are totally consumed by that. And if we don't do that, probably we'll lose our identity. People who oppose delegation uh, would be, from an emotional perspective, will be doing the same for automation or artificial intelligence. They would like to cling to what they are doing. So basically, artificial intelligence will push the basic datum of human development to a newer height. Now imagine life without telephones or a communication system like television for getting information for about anything and everything from all across the world. Um, and how better informed we are. For instance, if we have to commute in a city these days, we are becoming dependent on, let's say, Google Maps, an interactive app which helps us to wade through traffic and shortcuts and other things. This is definitely artificial intelligence at work, and it's assisting us. We are doing the same what we are doing earlier, but it's being now assisted. Now, this is one level of development that we have. I mean, I would have wasted probably. I save almost 30 minutes or more every day in my commute if I use Google Maps. So this is basically an upgradation of the way of living for me. And so is, I mean, this is a very basic example. Now we'll go into the complexities of the processes in scientific, engineering, banking, all these sectors. They would be experiencing path-breaking changes, which will be getting them or freeing them to do something more important, more productive than just to maintain the basics. So jobs will change and newer jobs will emerge. This would be, as I told you, the case of the flight attendant before commercial aviation started. Disrupting technologies will require humans to be at different levels in their processes. The form of jobs that we know today may give way to newer forms of jobs. We don't know many of these. And we will be pushed as human beings to better informed decision making or move to other areas that AI will not be able to take over. Yes, there are areas that will always be behind. AI will be behind us on those. Think it like this: we, as receptive collective of information of all kinds, whether it's a skill set that we have learned as language, walking, swimming, the languages, reading, writing, science, or other studies that we have done, and also the social skills that we have picked up, being born as a small baby to a toddler to a young child and then to a teenager and all that. What we are today is a sum total of all what we have learned as and we are talking of when we go for our jobs, when we talk of our jobs, we are talking of we applying a particular skill set to these jobs, and these jobs are with us. A big part of these jobs are with us because we have been through so many other things apart from a business school or an engineering school or a commercial school. That makes us humans because we have been. So AI, if AI has to uh, become somewhere closer to us, it has to go through that kind of a data input. And that will still not be enough because there are so many instinctive things that come to us as human beings that will never be taken up by artificial intelligence. So some jobs that artificial intelligence is likely to take away is estimated. Maybe these are just very directly affected jobs will be changed. They will change in their format. They will not go away totally, but yes, they will be changed in their format. Telemarketing, bookkeeping clerks, compensation benefit managers, receptionists, couriers, proofreaders. Proofreading is already obsolete now. Um, we have, which is not listed here, or you can see on your screens the list. Some of the things which have not been listed here is about any conclusion or analysis that we draw out of logical data. For instance, Microsoft Watson is one software. It's a legal software. I mean, it's like it assists the lawyers to come up with decision making in cases. Given the right inputs, the efficiency of Watson is about 95%, and the best of lawyers would have an efficiency of about 80%. Now, if we were to beat that, we were to actually cram up everything and anything related to that case and be 95% efficient. But do we be bothered about doing all that while a computer can do it? Why don't we move to something higher in the value chain and let the computer do the humongous calculations, the permutations, combinations, the outcomes, the analytics, everything, and let us move on to something in higher up in the value chain. Something similar to what I told you about the civil engineers who would be uh, doing all those calculations for a load calculation, and they're now freed to take up parts of architecture. They learn architecture also these days. Earlier, it was physically impossible for civil engineers to actually even touch upon architecture because they used to consume a lot of their time in doing those calculations. Now, there's also a list, and this is something which has been compiled by people who have been gathering information, making their intelligent guesses. Jobs AI is unlikely to take away are human resources managers, sales managers, marketing managers, public relations, chief executives, event planners, writers, software developers, editors, graphic designers. I will have another slide about the particular areas where we will have a limited takeover by artificial intelligence, even at the highest of levels, because these are very human, these areas. Um, One of them is creativity. Now, if you are not already aware, let me tell you, people have already started applying artificial intelligence to create hit music in terms of lyrics and popular tunes. They can come up with newer tunes, newer songs, which have a very high probability of being a hit. It's already being used. But the basic human creativity in arts, including music, cannot be the germ of that, the germination of that cannot be taken over by artificial intelligence. The expression, the human expression will still be human, very unique to human beings. So this area, the creativity area, is unlikely to be, it will be assisted, very, very heavily assisted as we see today. Music and television and other forms of art are being assisted by technology in a big, big way, but the basic creativity will still be with human beings. Then the social skills. As I told you, we are a sum total of the data that we have collected from the day we were born till today. And social skills are one part of that that we very subconsciously learn all through these years. We will not have artificial intelligence actually capturing all those nuances and get into those areas. They will have limitations. Having social skills as a skill to be replaced by artificial intelligence uh, rather than human beings. Then we have cognitive skills. For this, a simple example is that artificial intelligence may throw up a lot of data, but whether this data is useful, what is the significance, and what is the context, and how humans juxtapose things, how we are able to creatively compare these things. What we call intuition is basically our subconscious supercomputer actually making those various calculations and coming out with a result. These things will not be taken over by AI. Emotional skills like empathy, adaptability, they would largely remain in the human domain. Now, for instance, a doctor would, with the best of uh, diagnostic tools, will be able to predict the prognosis, treatment, and other things. But to actually interact with a patient, a doctor is still required. And those decisions will be taken up by the doctor and the interaction, of course. That is the crux of it. So these areas will be largely insulated from AI actually taking over jobs per se. And of course, the creator of AI, people who are working on software that actually creates automation or artificial intelligence, will always be ahead of artificial intelligence itself. Some of the stats: Price Waterhouse Coopers (PwC) in a recent research revealed that about 7.2 million new jobs will be created with the advent of AI in UK alone. We're talking of um, these are newer jobs. People who would be in the current traditional jobs would be then required to step up into these particular jobs. We are not talking of getting these 7.2 million people from anywhere else, but from the existing setups. McKinsey says that in a survey that 77% of the companies, and this is a survey, I'll give you a background, which is conducted through North America and Europe. It says that 77% of companies, they will not have any impact on the number of jobs, the net impact. Net change will not be there because people would, if there are certain job losses, newer people will be required to take up positions which are now. So basically, it's a skill change. as if we are changing the machinery, and people who are experts in old machinery will have to go, and new experts of new machinery will come in. 70% of the companies say that AI will actually increase their hiring because some of the challenges thrown up by, or the skill sets required, the human skill sets required by the advent of AI will create these 70% additional jobs. So, as I said in the beginning, resistance to change is is basically fear of artificial intelligence. Uh, Automation has been a dreaded word in industrial development related job. Most of the time, it's just a myth. I'll give you a very interesting example. I won't have the context for this, but in itself, the particular event is significant. In Kolkata, the Indian city of Calcutta, which is now known as Kolkata, there was uh, there was a union labor union opposition of an automation, and that automation was use of carbon paper. It's laughable now when we look back, but they, in their own right, felt that if you start using carbon paper, the typist will actually be typing one letter, and this one letter be actually be directly copied into two more letters. So the time required by this particular person to, he would have taken, let's say, 5 minutes for one letter, or 15 minutes for three letters or the copies. So his his work gets reduced to because of automation, and probably he will fall off, and you will require less number of typists. And basically, so this automation um, is against them. And now, if you think back, if you look back, the use of carbon paper assisted us to not to actually type or write things again and again. It's still being used in some places. Another study in the Harvard Business Review was about those Uber drivers. They complained about they're not liking the algorithm, which actually divides. It tells them which next customer they need to pick up, and what is the fare, and how long they need to be um, in the shift before they can call it a day, and all those things. And basically, they hate the artificial intelligence behind it, just for the sake of hating. Otherwise, the manual equivalent is less efficient, gets them less money, and is very difficult to manage. Um, and they are they what it actually boiled down to was that they actually are very used to a human interaction, an operator guiding them to the next customer, or some kind of a human interaction, or the all the taxi drivers waiting at a particular place, and they can chat to themselves within themselves and all. So it was camouflaged as a hate for AI, but it was just another issue. So end notes before we conclude the session and open this for questions. Artificial intelligence is another evolutionary step in technological development. While it will take up activities that humans do now, it will create opportunities at a different level of skills, maybe higher level of skills. Disruptive technologies historically have only helped push the human development to a higher level. And finally, artificial intelligence will push humans to function at higher level and free up time to take up other activities and vocations. Thank you.
Thank you, Zainul. So I would like to get some more data from the audience. So I would like to know what age group are you from? Please respond. Please respond to this poll. So yes, we were expecting quite senior people here. I'm seeing a lot of other results as well. Good for us. This topic interests all, and I believe is fear among a lot of people. Still, some more people are left. Please respond. Another 10 seconds. Please respond. Some people are left. Okay, so others are not responding, but still we have about 30% over 50 years of age group. Uh, about 30% between 35 to 50. About 10% between 25 to 35, and rest 20 to 25 years age group. Great, good mix. So we have had people even
Interesting.
75 years of age attending our webinars earlier. So
Okay.
great to have you all. And also, I would like to understand where all are you coming from? If you can tell me your country or the place name where you are from. We have not taken that as a poll question, but if you can respond on chat, which country or region are you coming from? So Delhi, India, Bangalore, uh, Italy, one I know, Bangalore. I think quite a few from Bangalore, some from Delhi and Hyderabad and Italy, and probably one gentleman from Europe, I believe. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. So now some questions coming your way, Zainul.
Okay.
So first question is, will driverless cars not make Uber drivers redundant?
Yes, they will. Definitely. But then the vocation that they have to change probably would be to learn a particular skill set and move into. Now we are talking of it's when we say Uber having driverless cars, we are assuming that everything else remains the same. Now, when a disruptive technological advancement happens, which it will also have a lot of other things coming alongside. I mean, let's say a scenario of 10 years from now or 7 years from now in India, if Uber has driverless cars. Now, this particular time that these drivers would have been driving, and because they were needed, and so they would have to look for other jobs which AI will actually be creating. A lot of automation, they would have to probably upgrade their skills and get into something else. And it will
Okay,
be a transition.
okay. So uh, this is pertaining to your industry. Probably you're coming from oil and gas industry.
Hmm.
This question is from my side, Zanu.
Yeah,
So
sure.
how much automation or AI do you think is being adopted in oil and gas industry? And do you think this kind of fear is there from oil and gas industry employees as well?
Well, see, when we talk of automation or AI, we are mainly talking of replacing existing processes with better controlled, technologically advanced, and better informed tools or equipment. So that will only boost the way we do work and will push these people. For instance, a very big fear in these industries, and when we actually go drilling into deep sea, or we have refineries or pipelines.
Hmm.
There's a huge focus on safety.
Right,
This focus on safety actually requires, in monetary terms, maintaining a safe workplace is a huge cost.
right.
And a lot of this cost goes into the fact that there's less data available or timely data available for this particular maintenance of safety. Now, with coming of artificial intelligence, there's another layer that we are adding over to this particular safety area. So it will actually be safer for people to work in oil and gas if we apply the automation or artificial intelligence. For instance, for non-engineers, let me give you an example. When we are designing, engineers, when we design something which has got any human beings involved into it, or in a disaster scenario, if there are human casualties or any kind of injuries expected, the
Mhm.
factor of safety for designing goes to 3, which means in layman terms that if there is a cable that takes a lift up and down a building and the cable can actually carry 100 people, only
Mhm.
then we allow 30 people to get into it.
Oh.
So that is factor of safety. We multiply the strength of a fallible component by 3. And
Okay.
so this is how, I mean, a rope which would be at least one third of the strength of the existing ropes can actually do the job. To maximize safety, we go on the, adding that particular thing. Now, this is a very base example. Now, when you get into complex examples of adding layers of alarms and valves and timely intervention, of there are fluids, hot, cold, corrosive fluids flowing through pipelines. All these things are
Right.
monitored and fed into a main control system, which will intelligently take those decisions to stop, start, all those things. It becomes a more efficient and a safer workplace. Now,
Mhm.
it will also mean that a person standing at the beck and call of a particular person in a control room over a walkie-talkie to press a
Mhm.
lever to this way or the other will not be required, and he will not need to be risk his health or life out there. And
Right.
in earlier times, even the furnaces, they when the robotics took over furnaces, a person was actually supposed to go near the molten metal, pick the metal in a ladle, and pour it into a cast to cast something. And that got automated. Now we are talking of a lot of safety there, accuracy and safety both. So the
Mhm.
human thing is all about. So we are pushing ourselves into the I mean the physical activity is getting changed by more of mental activity and the smarter activity that we can utilize all the physical things.
So,
Um, yeah,
so, so can I say that automation and AI in oil and gas industry will be a boon rather than a bane?
definitely. There any day, any day. In fact, for any industry, now we are talking of the job perspective, jobs will change. Now somebody will be required to design that particular module which can take care of those fluids safely flowing through those pipes.
Right.
So we create another job. We create another skill which will be essential to this particular thing.
Right. Interesting. So next question is, will scientists become redundant too?
Never. As I told you, we whatever we have learned. Now we are talking of laymen. We're talking of regular people who would know a lot of information. Our brains have captured almost anything and everything that has passed through our eyes, ears, and senses, all senses till date. And for AI to actually act like a human will require all this data plus the instincts. Those instincts cannot be replicated or captured. We are talking of animal instincts or the basic instincts that we have. Hunger, for instance, or there is an instinct to feel cared for or loved, or all these that cannot that cannot be created. And these are integral part of our existence. We cannot live without these. We'll have some equivalents coming, and there is a long list of these. And
Right.
so all this only emotional energies would actually put people to go beyond their capacities and great things. So scientists will actually be riding on a higher, much higher wave of change because they probably will be able to do. Now consider a truck driver 15 years, 20 years ago without a power steering. He
Mm,
was he used to be tired if he was driving through a mountainous region. He had to take turn every 2 minutes, and he was a muscular man because he had his arms need to be
mhm.
muscular, and he was
Right.
actually doing a physical labor, and he used to need energy. Now, and we would have seen. I mean, as you told about the age group of people here attending, we all know pre power steering days. Just imagine how easy it is to drive a power steering enabled car these days, and how much freer we are. Even when we are sick, we can drive.
Right.
Earlier, if you were sick, it will actually create problems if you drive in that. So similarly, if those scientists would be not be bogged with just mundane tasks, and they would be at the cutting edge of going forth with what they have done. Plus, we cannot process, as human beings, we cannot process data as algorithmically or accurately as the computers can. But these are machines. It's like comparing, can you draw exactly a straight line or a correct circle on a piece of paper without taking a compass or a scale in hand? No, you cannot.
Mm,
But that doesn't make that you are inferior to a scale or a compass. These are your inventions. Okay, they're assisting you to draw those straight lines and compasses. These are tools.
okay. Next is from India perspective, given the current scenario of unemployment, would AI aggravate the situation and widen the gap further in general?
Uh, it's when there is a recession looming. Nobody, or rather, very few people will dare invest into AI. So, take my word on this one that it actually would not come here when we have so much of. I mean, AI is all about more profits and better products, and more profits will only come when you can invest into artificial intelligence or automation, and that requires a capital investment. Its investment is right now is not the flavor of in the market. So
Mhm,
we'll keep doing things the way we are doing, but when it comes at that time also, it will not come the way we think, that is some will be some kind of an invasion or some kind of a godsend calamity. It'll come in very small steps, in smaller ways. For instance, I used to sell uh, precision air conditioners for a company to control the temperature in plus minus 1 degree and the humidity in plus minus 5%. And I'm talking of 97, 98, and
mhm,
these were meant for telecom shelters. And telecom shelters, the plea was that your telecom circuits will actually would not withstand the strain caused by temperature fluctuations. So please buy our air conditioners, which is equipped with the fuzzy logic or artificial intelligence, whatever you call it, that will keep the temperature in good range, and you will be informed by a modem connected to your phone and everything, all that. So the argument by the telecom operator was, whatever you're selling me is so costly that I would better have one plus one regular window air conditioner, and have two people employed there who would keep a check on the temperature and manually keep doing the up and down whatever required, and I'll still save money. So my point here is that automation and artificial intelligence is not like a viral disease or something that will suddenly come and catch up with things. It's an intelligent decision into capital requiring or capital investment, which will actually require a lot of deep pockets to get this done.
mhm.
Otherwise, we are labor intensive as it is in so many areas.
Well, I second that, Zainul, because recently I was in a conference and I was hearing a keynote speaker there, and she said that uh, we had a hackathon where uh, there were a lot of developers, and we were asking them to develop something that can ease the jobs of laborers in India. And one guy said, sat quietly and said that whatever happens to the world, India is such a vast and so populated, densely populated country that even government doesn't know many areas, how many people are there. Uh, that whatever technology comes in, AI will not be able to help us. So not much automation is going to happen. That it will ease the labor or uh, all the jobs that are in the market. So I second that. Now, next question is some gentleman is saying oil industry will go down when say 70,000 driverless cars replace 1 million personal cars. What do you say of that?
Sorry, I didn't probably perceive that correctly. Can you repeat that?
So it is related to earlier question where I said that is oil and gas industry being affected by automation on AI. So I think he's commenting on that. He says that oil industry will go down when say 70,000 driverless cars replace 1 million personal cars.
Well, that is a very, it's like declaring a horse a winner in a race of donkeys. Uh, that's a very unrelated comparison. We are talking of a hybrid fuel or electricity as a fuel for everything and anything that we are doing, and we are also relating it to the driverless cars. Now, a car being driverless does not mean that it will not consume energy. Please note that it will either be run by oil or by a hybrid fuel or electricity or something. Now, oil and gas industry will go down when we who find a very good, useful, safe, and all these substitute for oil. And then it will also go. This will also require um, so many other consumers of oil, which is not just the vehicles. There are various other things that are run by oil that also should be using something else. As for the automation, automation alone actually will just change the ownership of the number of cars that you see on the road. Probably less number. Yes, agreed, because the same car would be free to carry one person to a place and then be free for the rest of the day to carry 50 others to different places. I understand that algebra, but what you are comparing is basically that fuel, change of fuel, and advent of artificial intelligence.
Okay. Next is do you think salespeople will be redundant or will it be specific industry which will get impacted?
Okay, I don't know what age group that comes from, but everybody has probably gone through that. Can you propose to, can you use artificial intelligence to propose to a girl that you want to propose to? So it's very similar. You have to convince as a human being to another human being. Artificial intelligence fails there. Some people buy from us because they like us. Some people buy from us because they like our product. Some people buy from us because they actually need that product, irrespective of whether they like us or they like the product or not. So these are all human things. We cannot differentiate with the algorithm there. And that's why you see a lot of good looking or famous people endorsing products, because we would like to buy something that Shah Rukh Khan says, please buy. Otherwise, we
Hmm.
wouldn't have bought it. So that is
Right.
that AI will not perceive it as anything. For AI or for any logical conclusion, it will want. So similar is the case for sales also. We are talking of human to human convincing. Yes, if you're looking at a tender of or some kind of a systematic quote for something, when you have all the pros and cons listed down at that time, yes, but the final decision will still be, for instance, if I buy one, there will be so much of information which will be very specific to that decision maker. For instance, if you're buying a new cooking range for your kitchen, and you go to a store and you have two different products in your which you have to differentiate between, you have to choose between. You will choose according to the lists of merits and demerits and all that, comparatives, fine. But end of that, you probably will take a seemingly illogical decision because you only know that probably that particular machine will not fit into your kitchen slab of the next house that you will be purchasing in the next 6 months. This information is very, very specific to you, and it defies all logic that has gone through all this while in the debate with between the two models. Now, this is human. This is very human. So salespeople, they will always be there.
Okay. Now, last question that I'm seeing here is how will AI affect the IT industry, especially the jobs of support engineers in IT?
Support engineers. Now, see, the bigger the mess that you create, the larger number of people will be required to clean it up. So if you see that there are very sleek modules of something which looks like a computer are sitting on tabletops, which has got very little number of wires or no wires, and the screen are only visible to the users, and they are their input devices are basically those touchpads, or they are face recognition, all those things. Probably then you would not require those support engineers because all that will be then the supercomputer will replicate or do the repairing. But till the time you see wires, till the time you see this hardware that we have, the click keyboards, the monitors, the CPUs and all, you are definitely in job. No problem there.
Okay. Mm, I'll just go through the list again just in case I have missed any question. Zainul, would you like to display your contact information just in case people would like to contact you?
Yeah, sure. I should I put it on the screen?
Yeah, you can.
So help me on this one. I can write, right?
Sure.
Okay, just a sec. Just another slide. Sorry, I'm not good at this, but let me know. You can contact me at this email ID. This is my personal email ID.
So I think all questions are answered till now. Any other questions if you guys have, please ask now. Otherwise, you can mail him at this email ID or mail me at vishal@selstrat.com and I'll be happy to respond back to you with his responses. Uh, Also, we have a group called Disrupt 4.0 on WhatsApp. If you would like to be part of it, we share a lot of content on it, off and on basis, almost on alternate day basis. And I hope you have liked the webinar today. If you would like to get more such topics from Zainul, please drop in your interest and we will request him to uh, fulfill our request there. Uh, of course, he remains busy quite a lot because he's heading country business here. So I think one more question has come. Okay, so people are appreciating. So awesome webinar. Thanks for organizing. And thank you, Zen, also, and thank you, audience, for participating.
Thank you so much, Vishal. Thank you, everybody.
Most welcome. And this webinar would be streamed live. It will be, its recording will be put on Selfstad YouTube channel in 3-4 days time. So you all are most welcome to see it again if you wish. And thank you and have a good night and good day to rest of the world.